Welcome back. My name is Brittany and this is my quarterly book haul. I hope to share all the books I've purchased every quarter, and we're just going to start off with January, February, and March. These are all books I have purchased with my own personal money. I'm not yet cool enough to have books sent to me. Maybe one day, that would be the dream. But for now, these are all things I've purchased. I'll be going over the physical books I have bought in addition to my Audible and Kindle purchases as well. So let's just jump right in. Technically, this first one is a cheat. I did purchase this series in December, but I did not receive it until January, so I just want to share it. And this is the Faithful and the Fallen series by John Gwynne. This is a adult, epic, multi-POV, sweeping fantasy story. I've mentioned this series a few times in my other videos, so I shall not bore you to death again. I really enjoyed the first book, Malice. I just need to keep going. I got a really good deal off of eBay for this. The next book I bought was actually a Kindle purchase, and I got book 2 to the Empire of the Wolf series by Richard Swan, The Tyranny of Faith. And wow, book 2 was great. This follows Sir Conrad von Valt and his apprentice Helena as they dole out justice for the king. Justices are like judge, jury, executioner, all in one. They have a lot of power. They're able to project the king's voice, the king's will. Like, people physically can't resist it. There's necromancy, like you're traveling to other realms potentially. Like, there's dark, grim, gritty death magic. Like, oh my gosh, it's such a fantastic fantasy debut from Richard Swan. I just haven't picked up that third book because I'm scared. I think it's going to be a fantastic but maybe difficult conclusion. But yes, I will let you know when I finish that. It is really, really fantastic. Highly recommend. And I did buy the second book on my Kindle because I finished the first book and could not wait to order the second one as a physical copy, but I would love to add this series to my shelves. The next purchase for January was actually one I used my Audible credit for, and I got the first part of the Red Rising graphic audio series in hopes of getting my husband into it. I have been unsuccessful so far. He's not really into reading or audiobooks. He tends to fall asleep, which I think is very common. So I personally really love Tim Gerald Reynolds as the audiobook narrator for the first 3 books in the Red Rising series. Books 4 and 5 have a full cast with multi-perspective narrators and characters, and it really made for an amazing listening experience to get the back and forth with different voices. And then we go back to Tim Gerald Reynolds for the last book, the 6th one, and I didn't like it. I was actually really upset they switched narrators. A lot of people think Tim Gerald Reynolds is the best. He's the GOAT. Like, he is Darrow, and I agree. Like, he makes a fantastic Darrow voice and character, but I didn't love how he then voiced everybody else after we had already gotten multiple narrators for books 4 and 5. So the Red Rising community is very much divided. There are now dramatized adaptations or graphic audiobooks for the Red Rising series up until Morningstar. So books 1 through 3 have these available on Audible. And I thought my girlfriend really loved the dramatized adaptations, and I thought maybe that would be a more engaging way for my husband to get into the series. Unfortunately, like, my biggest pet peeve with these graphic audios that are coming out is that they're broken up into 2 parts. So now you're spending more money to get the first book. So if you look it up on Audible, there's a part 1 and 2 for just book 1. And then a part 1 and 2 for book 2, and part 1 and 2 for book 3. So now you're having to buy 6 things to get the full trilogy. And that's really frustrating. I think that's pretty annoying. I mean, I know a lot of time goes into the audiobooks and the creation of these, but then just make it worth 2 credits. Or just, like, increase the price and let me buy it all at once. Like, why am I buying 6 things? Anyways, I digress. I did buy the first part of that graphic audio. If he wants to continue, I will get the graphic audio. For me, I don't think I loved it as much just because I have Tim Gerald Reynolds' voice in my head, and like a few things in the beginning of the book were like kind of gross and like almost cheesy at times. Like, I don't know, it was just a very interesting experience. I can't speak to the whole series. My girlfriend loved it. I just think I'm kind of in the TJR camp. But that was my Audible purchase for January. And then I made a pit stop at a used bookstore locally. I picked up Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. I've seen this all over Goodreads and just online lately. And it's just supposed to be like a grand sweeping Western. I have not read a Western before. I do love this like old ratty copy with yellow pages. I don't love how tiny the font is, but that is okay. Overall, I don't know, I'm excited to check it out. This takes place in a little dusty Texas town. Sounds like you get multiple perspectives. The grandest novel ever written about the last defiant wilderness of America. We follow an ex-Texas Ranger, a fierce fighter, loyal friend, a gentle lover, and a boisterous spinner of colorful yarns. We follow his best friend and partner. We follow Lorena Wood, the whore every cowhand wants. God. Wow, there's actually a lot of people we follow. We have an Indian, a young cowboy. So, I don't know, sounds like an interesting time. Like I said, I've never read a Western. This is really popular right now, just lots of high ratings. So I saw it, thought it would be worth checking out. I also picked up the Goldfinch by Donna Tartt. I have never read Donna Tartt before. I don't really know what this is about. I just mainly got it because I want to check her out. I know The Secret History is really beloved, and I could not pass up this big floppy paperback. Honestly, that was really it. So excited to get to this at some point. I also snagged The Diamond Eye by Kate Quinn, and this is a historical fiction following Mila Pavlichenko, who was the first, best, only, I already forgot. It doesn't actually say where she's at in like the ranking, but she became a really, really successful female sniper during World War II. So, oh my gosh, I listened to this as an audiobook, and I thought the audiobook was fantastic. It was amazing. It was an incredible story, really powerful. So many good things from this book, and I saw a hardcover copy for a really good price, so I wanted to snag it to have on my shelves. For February, I used my Audible credit to listen to House of Flame and Shadow, book 3 in the Crescent City series by Sarah J. Maas. And this is narrated by Elizabeth Evans. I like Elizabeth Evans' voice. She's narrated a few others. Overall, this series was not for me, unfortunately, but I did purchase it. Crescent City follows Bryce and Hunt as they investigate a murder in Crescent City. Bryce is part fae and Hunt is a fallen angel assassin. And that really just kind of sets you up for a larger political, thing at play. There's drug schemes, there's hidden powers. I mean, there's just so much in this series. If you are interested in Sarah J. Maas, check it out. And if you're looking for an audiobook, this might be a good option for you as well. I went to a local bookstore. These were all new. The only thing I didn't love was the price. It was almost like $80 for 3 books. Ugh. But I did pick up some good ones. I grabbed Lapvona by Otessa Moshfegh. I'm hoping to pick this up for my weird book series, so stay tuned for that. But this follows Little Merrick. He is a shepherd, and I don't know. I think weird things are going to happen. I've never read Otessa Moshfegh before, so I'm just kind of going in blind on this one just to see, but I've heard it's very strange. I also picked up Everyone in My Family Has Killed Someone by Benjamin Stevenson. I saw Sid Bookworm recommend this, and immediately I was already intrigued just on her description of the book, so I'm also going to describe it and hopefully entice you. It starts off with like 10 commandments essentially for crime novels, and you're supposed to fold the page down so you can reference it throughout the novel, I'm guessing. But like number 1, the criminal must be someone mentioned in the early part of the story, but must not be anyone whose thoughts the reader has been allowed to follow. The stupid friend of the detective, the Watson, must not conceal any thoughts which pass through his mind. His intelligence must be slightly, but very slightly, below that of the average reader. Just kind of silly. I've heard that if you pick up the audiobook version, it like changes any word about like reading the book to like what you're listening to. And like the narrator like talks to us, which is kind of funny. This is all in keeping with Knox's commandments 8 and 9, for I am both Watson and detective in this book, where I play both writer and sleuth, and so I'm obliged to both light upon clues and not conceal my thoughts. In short, play fair. Actually, I'll prove it to you. And if you're just here for the gory details, deaths in this book either happen or are reported to have happened on page 14, 46, 65, a twofer on 75, and a hat trick on page 81. Then there's a bit of a stretch, but it picks up again on page 174, page 208-ish, page 218, page 227, page 249, somewhere between page 243 and 250, it's hard to tell, page 262 and page 355. I promise it is the truth unless the typesetter mucks with the pages. There's only one plot hole you could drive a truck through. I tend to spoil things. There are no sex scenes. What else? It just sounds really fucking funny. I literally had literally been getting ready the day we went to the bookstore, saw this on her video and grabbed it because I saw it and it sounds really good. And then I grabbed Looking Glass Sound by Catriona Ward. I have read one other book by hers and I have mixed feelings about it, but it's one I can't stop thinking about. So I do want to check out her other books, and this is also another contender for my weird book series. This follows Wild Harlow, and he has begun to write the last book he will ever write. So it sounds like it's going to be creepy. I think he might end up being unreliable. I'm just going to kind of go in blind on this one as well because I don't really like to know much when I'm getting into a strange book. I just kind of want to be along for the ride. So I have kind of a unique book I found at our local Walmart of all places. Seems like a very strange place, but that is a Boreal Herbal, Wild Food and Medicine Plants of the North, a guide to harvesting, preserving, and prepping. So I saw a friend had this, and then it was on Kindle Unlimited. I think it still might be, but I wanted a physical copy because I live in Alaska, and this is specific to Alaska plants. What's also really neat is, dandelions, right? Everyone's like, fuck this weed. But it has a whole description on dandelions, and then it tells you how to harvest it, how to harvest the roots, what to do with young leaves, and when to harvest the flowers when they're in full bloom, what their medicinal actions are. So dandelion is an anti-rheumatic, anti-inflammatory, anti-spasmodic, a diuretic, a digestive. It's a tonic. It can be laxative, so be careful. It's medicinal preparations you can use as an oil, salve, tea, infusion, tincture, as a vinegar. And then its medicinal uses. Dandelion roots' digestive and bitter properties are helpful when used for indigestion, spleen disorders, relieving heartburn and constipation, and stimulating the appetite. And then it gives you food uses, its nutritional profile, its cosmetic uses. It can help cleanse and detoxify the body. Other uses, cautions, and then there's recipes. So I could make a dandelion wine. I could make a coffee, a gout infusion, a green sauce. It has all of these recipes listed on the side. Devil's Club is something else that is all over in Alaska, and it is pokey and it can hurt you. But again, looking at this, there's so many uses for Devil's Club, and it's just really fascinating to see what's around me and how I can take advantage of wild plants and herbs and greenery. I think that's just really neat. So kind of an obscure pickup, but I'm excited to dig into this more this summer. I bought 2 books for Kindle in February. I got The It Girl by Ruth Ware and The Hacienda by Isabel Cañas. I read both of these on vacation. I do dig into this more if you're interested in my thoughts. That is in my Mexico vacation vlog. The It Girl was okay. It was an average, 3-star read for me. I enjoyed it. There's some few things that I was kind of meh about. If you're into the school, Oxford, high society setting of academia, I think you would like this book because a lot of this does take place on school grounds. We get a then and now perspective from our main character whose roommate was found murdered in their dorm. So definitely a mystery aspect, a thrilling aspect, kind of not sure who did it. Some new aspects of the case have come to life kind of later on after the fact that have caused our main character to reflect back and maybe dig into it again 10 years later. It was interesting. We had some good discussions with a local book club about it. Overall, it's kind of an average read. I've read some other Ruth Ware, and I honestly don't remember them to see how this one compared. But yeah, it was a fun, quick thriller to pick up. And then the other one I really enjoyed was The Hacienda. So this follows Isabel, and she basically enters a marriage kind of in hopes of security, stability, after her father was murdered. Her and her mom have been thrown out. They've been living with her shitty aunt. And so she's perfect. Like, this guy's like kind of attractive, he's got money, he has a property, like, we'll just go for it. And like the house, his sister who lives in the house, his ex-wife who mysteriously died, like there's a lot of like creepy things going on. And honestly, like, I really enjoyed this book. It had a slight supernatural aspect, which worked for me. We also get like a religious component. The other perspective in this novel is Andreas, and he is training to be a priest, and like that complicates things. There's a slight romance. I mean, it's spooky. The house itself is a very like unsettling entity. Overall, I really like this. When maybe comparing the two, like, while they're different, I just preferred the Hacienda a lot more. Then when we were in Mexico, I found the Labyrinth of Spirits, and this is part of a really cool series I want to get into. This is by Carlos Ruiz Zafran. First of all, it's like so worn and like weathered. I just love that. Oh my gosh, like all these crinkly pages, my favorite. The Cemetery of Forgotten Books. This book is part of a cycle of novels set in the literary universe, The Cemetery of Forgotten Books. Although each work within the cycle presents an independent, self-contained tale, they all are connected through characters, storylines, creating thematic and narrative links. Each individual installment in The Cemetery of Forgotten Books can be read in any order or separately, enabling the reader to explore the labyrinth of stories along different paths that, when woven together, lead into the heart of the narrative. So I have seen, I think like the other one, The Shadows of something. Oh, The Shadow of the Wind. That's right. So that's the only one I've seen, and I thought that's what I was picking up. But it's not. It's The Labyrinth of Spirits. So excited to check this one out. And then in March, I only got a couple books. I felt like I was spending a lot of money, so I tried to really like pump the brakes in March. I used my Audible credit for The Women by Kristen Hanna, narrated by Julia Whalen. Highly recommend picking that up as a potential audiobook if you're an audiobook listener. This follows Frankie as she joins the Army Nurse Corps to follow her brother's footsteps into Vietnam. And wow, if you want a heartbreaking, incredible, realistic historical fiction looking at like not only healthcare trauma, but like war trauma, PTSD, coming back from the war, like how complicated that can be. I mean, this really is the book for you. Made me cry a couple times. It's just really amazing. Kristen Hanna is a phenomenal writer. Julia Whalen's delivery was great. Was super happy with that experience. And then I found Ripe by Sarah Rose Etter at a local bookstore. This came out, I think, in 2023. I got it for like $14, so I love a good steal. This follows a woman who finds her dream job at a cutthroat Silicon Valley startup, but Cassie finds herself trapped in a corporate nightmare. She is depressed and anxious. She winds up unexpectedly pregnant. At the same time, her CEO's demands cross into illegal territory, and Cassie must decide whether the tempting fruits of Silicon Valley are really worth it. I don't know, I've seen this around online a little bit, and I just saw it, so I grabbed it. And then lastly, I got 11/22/63 by Stephen King. Again, another really great floppy paperback. I've heard this is really amazing from Stephen King, kind of different than his usual, like, I feel like people think of Stephen King as like strictly a horror author, but this is a historical fiction in an alternate universe where a man prevents the assassination of JFK. So I think this will be really great. I just need to dig into it. It's kind of a big bitch. But I'm excited to check out more King because I've enjoyed a lot of his other books. So that is it, you guys. That was my book haul for January, February, and March. Hopefully, as the year goes on, I will be able to update you on these books that I've read and share new books that I've bought. If there is something you saw in this video that you think I should prioritize and pick up next, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Bye!